sent them back the MP3 of the track, Tastes Like Barbie. I had this idea, just a disco tempo, a bass line, and some chords. And they just dug it right away. And then what it evolved into with the real strings, and once Dua came and we wrote the song with Dua and Carolyn Allen, who co-wrote New Rules and Don't Start Now, and such an amazing writer, and then Andrew Wyatt. It just kept, I feel like it kept elevating as we kept seeing the picture, and then we saw the picture, and the picture was so much fun. We're like, wait, and Dua was like, no, we have to address that when like Margot goes like that in the dance. Like, Dua wrote this line, turn the music up, so it says up right at the moment that Margot throws her hands up. Like, we were so inspired like by the picture that we just kept refining the song till it just had this like wonderful disco energy that really fit the film, but also felt very much like a Dua song, because Dua's music is super tough as well. You know, there's nothing like overly sugary or sentimental about it. It's like, you know, like it's all about heartbreak and just, yeah, being tough and strong. So it was, you know, we found this really great median, I think, of that. It reminds me even of Dua sometimes, because you're hanging out with this person who's so down to earth and wonderful and like unpretentious, that you also forget that, like, oh yeah, this person is the best absolute person at the thing that they do, and is just like, and millions of people adore their work, you know. There is some, like, obviously Greta can probably walk down the street a little easier than Dua Lipa, but it is that same kind of thing. And it's like, I feel like that's part of the reason. I think her genius vision is why the songs and all the music around this film is so good, because people just literally saw scenes of whatever they saw and were so inspired that they went and did their absolute best work. There's something about her, as cliche as it sounds, that brings out the best in everyone, because you're so inspired by her talent, and you just also, because she's just so cool and chill, like, you want to do your best work for that person, you know. I guess what happened was we wrote Ken and we turned it in, and then Greta's like, we love that song, and now Ryan's singing it. And then we went in the studio with Ryan and did the vocal, and now we've turned it into this giant 11-minute epic battle scene between the Kens. So actually, can you make it longer in parts? And actually, there's going to be this section where it goes into this white space Bob Fosse inspired dance off between Ken Ryan and Ken Seymour. So we need you to actually write another passage for that. So we were just kind of taking it as it comes and sending them back, and it seemed like everything that we sent them, they were digging. So then when it got to the point where they were starting to put the edit together, like, okay, can you make this a rocky part, and this is it. So we were essentially scoring like 10 or 11 minutes just around the Ken song. And then there were just other little cues that we started to send in that they were really digging. Obviously, we've never done this before, and it's, you know, it's to have like the first movie we've really ever done be this like giant, you know, huge studio film with all this expectation. It is kind of wild that we're going in. Like, it might have been nice to have like a little movie to like get used to scoring picture, but whatever. There was something, I guess, that we just seemed to tap into the musical language of the film early. There's not a frame that she's in she's not doing something brilliant, like either so funny, so moving, so heart-wrenching, so it's just crazy. I mean, I've never scored a film before, so I don't know what it's like, but I'm sure, you know, you're working on these things, and you have just a single frame of the film on pause infinitely while you're writing chords or doing these things. And the movie is just so visually stunning and incredible. There's not a single frame in this film that I can't just like get lost in and stare for like an hour at a time. It's like it's a visual work of art. And Margot and Ryan's performances are just like, I feel I actually like love those characters, like who they are in this film. Obviously, he has this crazy range and this belt and pathos and vulnerability and everything. And of course, he does. He's a brilliant actor, so he can bring all those things. But to have the voice and the vocal chops to be able to do that as well. So we did the first session, and the most important thing was like making sure that it never went into the world of gag or funny. Like it always, it's like the sense of earnestness in as much as possible, like Ken's real like struggle is kind of in there, because the minute you lose that, then it is like a gag song or something. So it was just incredible. And I remember because Andrew sung the melody on the demo, and I was like, Andrew has a really nice voice up here, and I had heard Ryan sing more of a baritone, and I was like, oh, maybe we'll have to drop it a key for Ryan to sing it, and he just like got it in the key. His range is so crazy, and he just brought all this incredible emotion to the song that we hadn't even really planned on. And then by having all these, really great musicians, from Slash to Wolfgang Van Halen to Josh Freese on the drums, play on it to make sure that like the music also is like as powerful and full and rich as you would have on a real song, like, so to make sure that there's nothing about this song that feels tongue in cheek, and mainly because Ryan's performance is like that good that it deserves that bed around it of like some serious musicianship. I think Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas, they wrote Barbie's song, like Margot Barbie, like really good. The song that they sent back, it's just so crazy. The minute we listen to it, like, man, those they are smart, wonderful songwriters. Like the lyrics, like they watched and they didn't even see the whole film. They probably saw 30 minutes of it and wrote this song. What was I made for? And it's just like it was just instant chills. It was just they sent a demo of just Phineas on the piano and Billy's vocal. And that's Barbie's real song. That's like I think as Greta likes to call it, like the beating heart of the sort of under all the glitter of the film, about Barbie's journey. Lizzo has such a individual voice and a perspective in all her own music. If she gets really personal, how are you listening to Lizzo's story while you're watching the introduction of Barbie Land? There are all these things that we're just, Lizzo's amazing. How do we fit all these pieces of the puzzle together? So we went in the studio, Lizzo, myself, and Ricky Reed, who produced About Damn Time and Truth Hurts and all these amazing songs with Lizzo. And Lizzo just started to narrate what was happening, like literally, like as Barbie yawns, she sings, "When I wake up in my own pink world." And she just started to literally sing what's on the screen, and we're like, this feels really good. And as soon as she got that hook, pink goes with everything, like we're like, wow. And we all got sort of chills. I'm getting like a little bit of chills thinking about it now. So I played it for Greta, and I think Greta was pretty excited. There was a million things going on in the edit that day. She was excited to get a Lizzo song. She loves Lizzo. She sat with her and showed her some of the film. And I could just see Greta's face as this song is playing, and she's starting to go like this woman has basically set up my entire movie. Like obviously the visuals is like what makes it, but I don't think even Greta really gambled on how great lyrically what Lizzo was going to really deliver. I think it's been really lucky that we've got to live, just even from working on Ken almost a year ago, really understanding the nature and the language and what Greta loves and what the visuals call for. I think if we hadn't had that kind of early jump start, it would be a different situation, especially since this is such a big movie with so much music and it's our first time doing a full score. But it's it's like a dream, you know, to be in here, these things that we've been working on for, like I said, weeks or maybe months, that we've played on our keyboards with our string samples and synthesizers. It's going to be brought to life by, you know, some of the greatest musicians in the world in this room. Is pretty surreal. Right when Margot hits the stairs to walk up to where Barbie's house, the beat just like kicks in so loud with these claps that had actually come from the Dua Block Party song. But these claps have now evolved. This disco double clap has almost evolved to this motif in the film, like Dorothy clicking her heels or something in The Wizard of Oz. So we put that in, and as soon as we saw that, we're like, oh man, she wants us to take it to some unexpected places. Like, she's willing to put the beat right there, and she was like, you know, Weird Barbie, don't score her like a weird tragic character. Score her like the last song at a disco when Donna Summer's playing. Like, it's got to have sadness and pathos, but like, remember, it's Barbie. Like, it's always a party no matter what. For Mattel, there's this thing that emerged from the Block Party, from the Dua song. I wrote this string line that was like, dun, 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 dun. So we were trying to score Mattel, and we were making it a bit too like the Death Star. You know, she's in the building. It's like dun dun dun. Like, it's not that, you know, and Noah said something. He was like, can you give it a little nobility? Like, they're bumbling fools trying to do the right thing. And we're like, okay. So then instantly we thought of like marching snare, like like kind of like pomp and circumstance. And we're like, and Andrew said, why don't we just take the string melody and put that on the horns? So suddenly the horns are like, bum, 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 bum. So we sent it, you know, here's a little idea for a Mattel vibe. So Greta writes back right away. She loves it. She's like, we put it everywhere. And we're like, what do you mean? So every time, like, Will Ferrell literally comes into frame, or we're at Mattel, you get this quick sting of like, dun, 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 and it starts to play as a comedic gag. I think that, but my references are very much like, I love the 80s, you know, I loved Duran Duran and Prince, and then I also love the 70s a lot, because as a DJ, like, that's just such a rich era of music and disco. But all that stuff is kind of in me. I think the 80s really works in Barbie, because it's almost like, it's like what people thought the future would be like in the 80s, and then what people looking back to the 60s was the Beach Boys through the lens of the 80s. So it gets to be all these things, and maybe the 80s is the era when culture most met up with all the ideals that Barbie's really about. So you think of Malibu and Corvettes and pink and hot pink, whatever. Like, it seems like the 80s was really the time that aesthetic that we identify with Barbie really was like the most kind of prevalent in all of culture.